I'll do the intro. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to our final part of our Pixar bracket episode. If you guys don't know, we left off on Wally and Up, and we are going to be taking a little break of trying to make that decision because it is probably the hardest decision we have made on this list so far. We are joined by two new guests. If you guys have not seen my Instagram, this is our official mascot of Two Cents podcast, Kevin. Say hi, Kevin. Uh, and that is
This is my
our
emotional support Squishmallow named Jabba.
everybody say hello, Jabba. Hello, Jabba. All right. And with that being said, let's get back to our bracket. Philip, you got to click on some buttons, and then we'll be
I
there.
sure will. Let me work my magic here. Okay, bop bop. Oh, let me switch this screen to
Ba,
this.
ba, ba, ba. Working some magic.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Okay. All
All right.
right.
So
So, like I said,
let's.
we're taking a break from Wally versus Up for now because we're both at odds. So we don't want to take too much time away from the other movies. So we're gonna move on to the quarterfinals for the rest of the brackets. So for the first one on the left here, we have Toy Story versus Toy Story 3. Now, again, they're both Toy Story movies. Obviously, Toy Story was the start of the Pixar franchise, really made Pixar what it is today. But as we discussed before, and with a couple of the other brackets, Toy Story 3 is probably the best Toy Story film of that, trilogy. I mean, I know there was a fourth movie, but everybody remembers the Toy Story trilogy. It's the best out of all the films. I think it has the strongest message attached to it. And comparing these two films side by side, I just think Toy Story 3 brings a lot more to the table than the original Toy Story. Um, and I think a part of Toy Story 3's success has to do with Toy Story. So I mean, obviously, without Toy Story, there would have been a Toy Story 3. So I think that's basically the reason why Toy Story 3 gets it above Toy Story because it's more fleshed out. It has a lot more in it. And again, it's probably the best movie of the Toy Story franchise. So
Yeah, I mean, as much as I do like Toy Story, and as much as it pretty much, in my opinion, I feel like it marks the beginning of Pixar. Um, Toy Story 3 is just, again, it's the third in this trilogy, so obviously they've been able to learn a lot, you know, uh, find out a lot with their animation characters, introduce new characters, and honestly, it has one of the best villains in any animated film, especially in animated Pixar films. Um, and I just think I, I love what they also do with the daycare in the sense of toys like being locked up and even having this secret ring where the toys gamble and
plus,
it's
it probably has like one of the most like depressing final acts like of any Pixar movie where like Andy is playing with his toys one final time. I mean, come on. Besides the garbage shoot scene, it also has Andy playing with his toys for the last time. I mean, come on. This
it's
movie literally required you to bring like a box of tissues with you to the movies.
it's a heavy hitter for sure. So I mean, I don't really think there was any debate in who would win in sense of Toy Story and Toy Story 3. I think Toy Story 3 has to take it, and that's the first one in the semifinals.
Actually, it's your quarterfinals.
We're in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
No, we're not. We're in the semis.
No, we're in the quarters because see these actually. Oh no, never mind. I lied. Sorry. Never mind. Take it back. I take it back. Sorry. Take it back. Okay. Down here in the quarterfinals, we have Ratatouille versus Coco. And honestly, I need you to persuade me on why we should put Coco through over Ratatouille.
Okay. So again, we can debate on the different stories all day long, but how I'll explain Coco is Coco starts off in a fairly big family. Um, what's it called? The character of Miguel, I believe is his name. Uh, their family hates music, and they hate music because Mama Coco's father walked out on them. Um, Miguel finds comfort and happiness in music, and that is where he goes to try to get the guitar to be able to play in. I forgot exactly the name of it, but he wants the guitar to play in like a tournament or like a contest, and this is where he basically ends up going to the uh, land of the dead, and this is where he ends up meeting his, I believe it's his great great grandfather, basically Mama Coco's father, who all along he was framed by who everybody idolized, um, and he ended up actually being poisoned by him, and that's how he actually died. And music was everything to him, but he said that the song of his life was Coco, his daughter. And it's just a beautiful story in the sense of Miguel also fighting to go back to the living world, but throughout this journey he wants to fight to get his you know family back to the world as well, learning and almost, and at some points not forgiving him, and at the end they honestly almost both die. And it just it's so hard when you haven't seen the movie to really interpret it for yourself. um it's just there's so much in Coco, not only in the sense of its colors, its music, the culture, the the heart it has. I mean, especially when we're talking about the land of the dead, this is a place where everybody goes to live out their eternal life. But somebody like Mama Coco's father, who, if you're forgotten, then you're gone forever. You wither away in the land of the dead, and you can never cross that bridge again. So it's it's a pretty big story in the sense where a lot goes on, but it's pretty simple to follow, and it's beautifully written. Um,
Now,
Ratatouille.
what
I
what
mean,
does what does Coco have over Ratatouille that makes it the better choice?
Coco has a family aspect, a love aspect.
Can you not argue that Ratatouille also has a family aspect?
Not necessarily, because we're not really focusing on a family in Ratatouille. We're focusing on two main characters, pretty
Yeah,
much
but
between
isn't like
Remy.
Remy trying to be accepted by his family because like they think it's
Not,
they,
I
they
don't.
they
He's
think
not
it's
necessarily
weird
trying
that
to be.
they think it's weird that he wants to cook, so they learn to accept him towards the end.
But he's not like, his thing isn't to be accepted. His thing is to try. His thing is to go and chase his dreams
Hmm.
and prove to his family of what he can do.
Hmm.
Coco is very similar, and that's kind of what Miguel does, because they hate that he plays
But
music.
what's the mess? What's the mess? Like if you were to walk into a theater and watch Coco, what's the message you're supposed to learn from that movie?
from
Feel like
Coco.
I feel like with Ratatouille, it's basically teaching you no matter how big or small, shape or size, like the line says, anybody could cook. If you put your mind to it, you could achieve anything, and you could, become successful. And I think that's exactly what Remy does. Anybody could cook. He learns how to cook. He becomes successful when nobody thought he could do it, and that shows kids that they could do whatever they want as long as they put their minds to it and they believe in themselves. So like what would Coco teach a kid like when they
I
went to the
believe
theater?
that's bullshit. Um, Coco teaches basically not only the story of finding, it teaches several different lessons. There's not one big lesson in Coco, because there are so many stories going on. Again, we see the story of this family resenting Coco's father for God knows how many years, pretty much since Coco was a kid, because of what happened. And we see resentment and hate, and then towards the end we see forgiveness and love and lessons learned by this family, not only like just one character of Miguel, but the journey that Miguel goes on to not only try to essentially save his, I guess, great great grandmother, I believe, or maybe actually I think it's just his grandma, to save his grandma. um but also the journey that he helps his, not even knowing, his great grandfather, no, great great grandfather, I don't exactly know the terms, great grandfather, whatever.
Now,
But
let me ask you this. When you think of the Pixar movies, is there any other Pixar movie you could think of that has the message behind it, in which the message is no matter who you are, if you put your mind to something, if you're passionate about something, you can achieve whatever dream you set out to achieve. Does any other movie convey that message besides Ratatouille? Where the character is setting out to achieve a dream that he doesn't think is possible, and towards the end of the film, he is able to achieve that dream because he never gave up. Does any other Pixar film do that besides Ratatouille?
you can't even argue that message though, because every
I can.
Pixar film
I
is
can answer the
different.
question. Answer the
No, you
question.
can't.
Answer the question.
You could argue. You could probably argue the first Cars in the
No,
sense of
no,
McQueen.
you can't, because McQueen was already a good racer before he got to that little car town.
Yeah, but you could argue that Remy was a good cook before he had the tools.
Yeah, but this is Remy. Yes, he was a good cook in his world, but Lightning McQueen was already a good racer in his world. He was just learning to be a better person. He was already a good racer, but when he became a better
So
person,
what's the
he
message in Ratatouille to
no, the
become more
message in
skilled at your craft?
Ratatouille is that you're taking a rat, right? That is not supposed to be able to cook, okay? And yes, he might have been a good cook in his world, okay? But he's stepping into the real world, the human world. And even though he is small, even though he is a rat, and people will look at him and think he's disgusting, he doesn't belong in the kitchen, he sets out and he achieves his dreams, and he shows to everybody that he could be just as good of a cook as any human can. In Cars, he's already a good racer, but he learns to become a better car, or I guess
Scroll
human.
up.
He learns to become a better.
Scroll up.
Okay.
Hmm.
He learns to become a better car or person over the movie, which in the end makes him a better racer because he becomes a better person.
But what's your point with Ratatouille's message? Because not
That
every
it's the
Pixar movie
only
has the
Pixar
same
movie.
message.
It's the only Pixar movie in this list that portrays that certain message. There are so many films out there that portray the same message as Coco. That
What
Coco does.
films?
Well, I not
Exactly. If you
Pixar
can't name a
films.
film off the bat, then you can't, even if it's not a Pixar film.
I'm not putting Coco over Ratatouille. I don't think Coco
I'm
portrays
not putting
better.
Ratatouille over
I
Coco.
don't think I don't think it portrays a better message.
I
I don't
realistically
really.
don't. I don't think Ratatouille does as much as Coco does. And all of Coco has so
But
many elements to it.
the way you describe Coco to me, it seems like they learn to what forgive the family and like
But
move
you
on sort of
argue that
thing.
it's not all about message either. We're not even just talking about messages here.
Yeah, but your arguments for why Coco is better than Ratatouille is all about the messages that it portrays.
Since when?
Since
I
you
just I
since
just told you Coco has more elements to it.
like what describe
Coco's
these elements.
world, Coco's colors, Coco's music,
Yeah, well,
its story,
that's just obviously
its
that's going to
heart.
be true because you're taking the Day of the Dead, you're taking Mexican tradition and holiday versus Paris. I mean, so there's obviously going to be more color, more vibrancy because it's a totally different culture. I
But
mean,
again, you're arguing which what like if we're arguing in terms of film, we have to take every single element into effect of the worlds that it's in. I just think Coco is a more interesting world to watch a film in. I mean, yeah, like France, whatever. I don't really
I
like
think it's a
France.
more interesting world, but we've seen whether these movies display it or not, we see that these movies usually have some sort of message behind it. And although Coco is nice to look at, like the
It's
characters.
not even just nice to look at though. It's there are so many different messages in it. It's not one clear cut message really. And people might argue that it is one clear cut message. You have to really watch the movie several times to understand the clear cut message of what it is.
Okay, well, we're gonna put a pin in that real quick because I do not want to spend like the whole 30 minutes talking about it. Um, okay, obviously Elementals is already into the semifinals. We all know that. Um, So do you think we can finally put the Wally and the Up debate to rest now? Can we choose one, or do we have to go back to Ratatouille and Coco?
I don't know because I have my answer for Up and
Can we
Wally.
do a fair trade? If I give you Coco, can we do Wally?
I don't want to do a fair trade though. I want this needs. I see your points in Wally and I see your points in Ratatouille, but I just feel like again we could talk about Pixar in the terms of messages. We could
And I
talk
feel the
even,
same way. I see your points in Up, but I don't see your points in Coco. You lose me with Coco. I don't see your points in Coco.
but you're not understanding. Not even just my point. You're not understanding it as a film as a
Yeah, but
whole.
you've made a
Again,
better
because you're arguing Wally as a film as a
you've
whole.
made a better argument, and you've described elementals better, and
Because
you
Up
just saw
has
that
Up is
versus
a little
Coco.
more of a clear-cut story and path. A Coco is different in the sense of what type of movie it is. Again, it's not like a clear-cut thing of two characters, even though Miguel and what the fuck is his name? Don't exactly remember his name. But you could argue that it is kind of two main characters going on this sort of journey. But it's completely different from how Up tells the story than Coco. Just like Wally is different from how
Well, I will
Ratatouille
tell
tells
you
the
this
story.
now. If we put Coco over Ratatouille, I'm not putting Coco over Toy Story 3. And if that's going to be another conversation, then we're going to be here for like 4 or 5 different parts, because I'm not putting Coco over Toy Story 3.
It's just I don't think
For me,
Ratatouille.
for
I
me,
think out of all Pixar movies, I don't think Ratatouille is strong enough to argue against Coco. If it was Wally, Up,
for
or
me, it
Toy
doesn't
Story
matter
3
which one we
or
put through.
Monsters Inc.,
For
maybe I
me,
would.
for me, it doesn't matter which one we put through. Whether Ratatouille or Coco goes through, it's going to be Toy Story 3 for me all day.
I honestly think if you're arguing as strongly as you are for Ratatouille, you would argue as strong as it against Toy Story 3.
No, because no, that's I could argue a strong for Ratatouille against Coco, but when it comes down to Toy Story 3 and Ratatouille, I could analyze which one I think is the better movie from the both of them.
But again, that's what I'm analyzing here in terms of which one's a better movie. I'm not just focused. Again, it seems like Ratatouille, we're focusing on the message in this one. Now we have to take into account the movie as a whole. And personally, I think Coco as a whole is just a better movie.
Okay, whatever. We're doing Coco. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Being annoying,
Uh huh.
because we're gonna be here forever if we don't
That's
decide
how
on.
you have to debate movies. You have to bring up several points about it.
Yeah, but
And
the
we can
thing is,
talk
like,
about message and heart as much as we want because
the
that's
thing is, like,
what Pixar does. But
you explained to me the backstory, and then you're talking about all these elements, but I'm not hearing a single element that was in this movie that makes it better than Ratatouille.
how are you not hearing a single element?
Because you never told me any of the elements. You were just like, oh, they have a lot of elements. It's like, what elements? Like, I mean, okay, the Day of the Dead, yeah, cool. Okay, like it looks really great. Like animation, great. I totally understand that. Characters, again, great. Music, great. But like,
What elements does Ratatouille have then?
again, it has a great message.
Food?
Okay. The characters, okay. I mean, come on,
The
like,
characters are not that interesting.
Remy's
Besides
character,
Remy,
huh?
the other characters are not that interesting.
Okay, whatever. We're
You
moving
can't tell if you could give me a strong argument on top three characters from Ratatouille, then maybe I believe you. But I'm sorry, Ratatouille has Remy, and I think Linguini is the cook's name. Them two, maybe. But other than that, every other character is
the
flat.
discussion is over. We have chosen Coco, and now
I
we
just
are finally debating on Wally or Up. Okay, and can we please just put this to like bed already? Okay, we've made some great arguments for both. Okay, we talked about it a little bit off camera. Okay, I mean we already put Coco through. I mean I can't put Up through. I mean I gotta put you gotta budge a little bit. You gotta give me Wally at least on this one.
hey, listen, I would have let you put Ratatouille through if you gave me solid points, but I just felt like our argument was going nowhere.
Look, I think the argument that I made was pretty solid. I know we're not focusing on like each
I
movie.
think you have a better I think you have a better argument for Wally than you did for
Yeah,
Ratatouille. I
I
think
know I
Ratatouille.
do. I know I do. But the point that I was trying to make with Wally, and this is the last thing. I'm sorry, Ratatouille, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, is that when it came to the message, again, I understand that the message is not everything when it comes to the films, but this particular message has not been shown in any other Pixar film. Okay, for example, Coco, right? Remembering the ones you lost, remembering the ones that are no longer with you, right? That same theme is seen in Up. So like we see similar themes to Coco in other films. In Ratatouille, I have not seen a film yet where we see a character chase his dreams in an
Soul,
occupation. Huh?
Soul. Honestly, if you watch Soul, you could argue it is similar in that sense.
Yeah, it is
No,
similar. If Soul and Ratatouille were going up against each other, I still take Ratatouille over the characters. Okay, we're talking about a human man going after being a musician. Okay, that's possible because he's a human. This is a rat that we're talking about becoming a world class chef in Paris. I
but
mean,
it's
which
not just a
which
rat that does it
which one is
himself.
more impressive? A rat becoming a chef in a world famous city like Paris,
You
or
can't even argue in
man,
that sense of
a
which one's more
teacher, a
impressive.
teacher becoming a musician?
You can't even argue in a sense because then if you're saying which one's more impressive, then I'm gonna go to which one's more realistic or which one you would
It's
that
a
freaking rat can't
Pixar
even
movie.
shut
It's not
down a
supposed to
goddamn
be
car.
realistic. Okay, the animation and the characters are not supposed to be realistic, but the message behind it is realistic. That's how they tell their stories. They tell their stories through toys and made
No,
up fictional
it's over.
characters.
It's over. There's no sense in talking about it because
You
I'm not even gonna talk about which one's more impressive.
were okay. Can we finally choose one, please, so we can finally get to the freaking semifinals here?
Sure,
When it comes to Wally and Up, we've heard both arguments. I'm standing by Wally. I think I love both these movies to death. I really do. They're both top five Pixar for me, but I have to go with Wally, and that is all I gotta say. So
I strongly disagree, but sure, I'll put it through.
we're putting it through. Screw you. I can do whatever I want. See, this is welcome to Two Sons podcast. Okay, our brackets are different from yours. Okay, so we'll do this real quick. Obviously, Elementals is into the semifinals. I think we could both agree that Wally would go over Monsters Inc., correct?
I would agree. Yeah,
Okay. Again, both great films, but I think Wally just has more depth and stuff to it when you look at it side by side. All right. So now in the semifinals, we have Toy Story 3, Coco, Wally, and Elementals. Okay. Let's start with Toy Story 3 and Coco. Okay. I've already heard the arguments for Coco. Now I'm going to argue why I think Toy Story 3 should go through. We've already established that Toy Story is the most well-known and the best Toy Story movie of the whole franchise, correct?
agreeable.
So we understand that first of all, we look at all the characters, right? They go through some massive development. Okay. They go from being someone's toys to being donated to a children's daycare. Okay. So in some retrospect, they go from being kind of like a private comfy toy to what being a real toy could be like. I mean, we see that whole montage where like the kids come in from like playtime, and they're like totally just pummeling and destroying these toys. And that's the reality of being a toy. Sometimes you're gonna get those kids that just don't play nice, right? Um,
Hmm.
we see the tragic backstory of Lotso, and we see how he used to be a toy, but instead of like Woody and the gang, instead of being like privately donated, for the better good of children, he was kind of abandoned and forgotten about, and that's why he has so much hatred, right? So we can see his story. Overall, I think Toy Story 3 has the better characters. I think it has the better message. It has some of the best animated scenes out of any Pixar movies. Again, Andy and Bonnie playing with the toys. The final farewell of Andy to his toys is one of the most beautifully written scenes in all of Pixar. And not only that, but the garbage chute scene where they're about to get incinerated, all those toys lining up together, holding hands, because not only are they toys, but they are family, and they are sticking by each other through everything. They've been through so much, and they're willing to just all die together versus try to escape one by one. You take those two scenes, and again, you take the characters, you take like Toy Story as a whole and what the messages are and just who the characters are. And I think that takes enough of it over Coco. I think Coco is a great film. It is definitely one of the better Pixar films over the most recent years. But I think Toy Story 3 has too much ammunition behind it to come so far in the tournament and then be knocked out by Coco.
I'm not arguing against Coco. I love Coco, and I think Coco is a very enjoyable movie to watch. And I feel like you have to watch Coco several times to really appreciate it. And I feel like its message is simple when you get down to it. It focuses on how important the people around you are, both in life and after death. That's one of the main messages of the film. But Toy Story 3, it has a lot of ammunition, like my brother said, behind it. It has some of the most impactful scenes in, honestly, film, and especially animated film. It has several scenes in it that do hit heavy, so it definitely gives it an edge over it. Again, Toy Story, very popular franchise, characters, very popular as well. But also, it introduces new characters that, honestly, like, if I'm putting, I think Ernesto de la Cruz, I think that's the villain's name in Coco, but I don't want to get it wrong. If I'm putting Lotso up against Ernesto de la Cruz, they're both fucked up, realistically, in the way like they are. Like, Ernesto de la Cruz killed his uh essentially brother musician, what would you call that, co-star, I don't know. He killed somebody. Lotso also did some murder in the sense of toys and screwed up things. But again, Toy Story 3 does have a heavy weight behind it, um more than Coco. So it's gonna go to the finals for sure.
All right. So see, that was nice, quick, and painless. I don't know why you had
Dude,
to, whatever.
you
Okay.
have to watch it, man.
All
You
right.
have to.
Toy Story 3 is the first film in the finals. Okay, now you can't see it, but again, Wally Elementals. I haven't seen Elementals yet. I know you've seen it. Do you think there's enough ammunition behind Elementals to put it over Wally?
As of right now, I would have to watch Elemental at least two more times to really give my opinion and watch Wally again. Um, I I the only unfortunate thing behind Elementals, in my opinion, is there's a lot of unanswered questions in this world that they build. Um, that maybe people wouldn't think hard about because it's a kids movie, but I think about it. Um, and what's it called? I also do not like the way that I don't like their comedy in the sense of any characters outside of the main two, besides maybe the parents of both of these two main characters, Wade and Ember. um I don't like them. I think they're all pretty weak characters in that sense. But the messages are, honestly, some of the most realistic and really touching messages that I've seen in a Pixar animated or any movie in a while. And again, a lot of people said Elemental flopped. I think the marketing had a lot to do with that. Realistically, I would go see it. And again, I would really have to sit down, and it could be recency bias, but I can't put it over Wally. I love Wally, and Wally is one of my favorite Pixar films. Um, and again, to this day, the fact that they used Wally, a basically, I believe, a garbage robot, and created this whole story around him where not only can it be realistic, but the serious tone, but also how lighthearted it can be at times in the sense of him and Eva. And it just will always amaze me how much emotion there is in this film with so little talking. And I think because it does that, it has to go to the finals.
Well said. Well said, brother. Well said. All right, guys, this is it. We got Toy Story 3 versus Wally. Now, I think in Two Sons fashion, we are going to say our choice on the count of three, and we
Okay.
are going to see if we get it right the first time. All right. On the count of three. One, two, three. Wally.
Wally.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
there we go.
Okay. So obviously, boom.
Thank God.
Wally wins the Pixar bracket. Thank God. Look, I love Toy Story 3. I mean, I made the argument for it the whole entire bracket. But again, just looking side by side with Wally, I mean, if I had to do my own top 5 Pixar movies, right? Wally's number 1, Up is number 2. Uh, I probably put Toy Story 3 maybe at number 3. Um, I'd put Ratatouille at 4, and then maybe Monsters Inc. at 5. It's so hard to choose a top 5 for Pixar because all the classic ones are just like golden.
It
Um,
is hard.
but
It is.
I don't want to spend too much time. Oh, actually, it came out on June 27th, so it's going to be Wally's anniversary in 6 days.
I want to see. Hold on. I want to see when.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm just gonna, but yeah, I mean, me and my brother talked about the whole entire bracket,
Oh,
breaking these
wow,
movies,
it's old.
breaking these movies
2008.
to, oh wow, 2008. So it's gonna be 15th year anniversary.
That's crazy.
Breaking these movies down side by side. Again, Wally's the more developed one. It's the more consistent one. And again, we can go on and on, but I think it just has the better message. It has the better characters, and against Toy Story 3. Um, again, just it's just so hard to beat the OGs. It's so hard to beat Wally, and again, I would love to do this bracket again in the future, like just with a different randomized one. I mean, obviously, it would take us a lot faster to go through because we've already explained all these movies. But if any of these movies were in any different brackets, it'd obviously be a different story. But the way this bracket randomized, we had Elementals, Wally, Toy Story 3, and Coco in our semifinals. Shout outs to Elementals. The fact that it literally just came out, and at least in our bracket, it was in the semifinals, which is crazy. I mean, I think it kind of got lucky because it was in this like open space, but it
Yeah.
seems like even if it was put in a different space, it might have actually made it far, which is hats off to Pixar. But that finally finishes our bracket. So this was a lot of fun.
In
This
my opinion, like even the ones that we strongly debated, in terms of movies and especially Pixar hits on two things very well.
mhm,
One, its story, and two, its emotion. No matter what emotion it portrays, and no matter what story it does, they always seem to do it pretty well in whatever they're telling. Some not as strong as others, and some, definitely stronger. But also, they've been what they can also do is they can create this sense of wonder, and I think that's why Wally really gets the edge over something like Toy Story 3. Not that Toy Story 3 isn't like a very creative film, it's super creative, but Wally is just it's just in a different world, and I feel like when you think about something like that, it's completely different. Like I don't know, I just that's why I feel so strongly about Coco against Ratatouille is because I just feel like it's this different world, even if it's just Paris and then Mexico. It's two real countries, but it's just the different world is what puts a movie over the edge for me, and I think that's what put even. Again, I love Up and I love Wally, and honestly, those would be the two I would probably have as my top two, and I would debate which one should be in the
yeah,
top. And it's very hard because again, they're not similar in the sense of what story they tell, but they have so many aspects to it where it's very difficult. And I'm pretty sure they're both like what is Up? Uh, yeah, that's not Up. Up Pixar. I just want to see what their Rotten Tomato and like all their IMDb shit. Literally, okay, this is actually really interesting. So I'm just gonna tell you off the bat, Wally, Up, and Coco's Rotten Tomato scores and IMDb. So Wally has a 95% certified fresh.
mhm,
Coco has a 97% certified fresh,
mhm,
and Up has a 98 certified fresh. Up has an 8.3 IMDb. Coco has an 8.4, and Wally has an 8.4. That just shows like how strong Pixar is in its films.
yeah,
That one is recent, um, one is pretty old, and one is in like the middle.
mhm,
So that they have some bangers. They definitely have some bangers.
yeah,
But no, this was a fun episode, and it was hard. It wasn't
yeah,
a lot of it was kind of easy, but some of it was very
Yeah.
difficult because I feel like even though you would hate to see one lose, it's like Pixar has enough wins where I don't think I'd be super disappointed if, again, I didn't get up as my top one because
Yeah, and
I
like I
love
said, I
the
mean, it all depended on like where the movies fell in the bracket when they were shuffled. And I mean, again, if it was shuffled a different way, we could be having a totally different conversation.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's a great note to leave it on. I mean, I think we summed up, the beauty and the importance of Pixar, nicely there. So that was a pretty good job. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's the end of our episode today, where we created our own little Pixar bracket, and we had a nice little showdown. And as you saw, Wally came on top. So please, let us know in the comments, what you think. Whether you agree, disagree. What are your favorite Pixar movies? Where would you see in yours? To run down through the good old sign off. We are Two Sons Podcast. We are available on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Two Sons Podcast, as with O, not a U, because we are two brothers. We are also on YouTube at Two Sons. Again, that is with O, not a U, because we are two brothers. The YouTube videos will be released in 3 parts. So part 1 will come out tomorrow morning, then followed by Friday, and then Saturday. So you guys will have a nice 3 days of content to watch. My
yeah,
brother will probably try to get out this episode, sometime tomorrow morning. So, at least the audio version will be released tomorrow, and then the YouTube will be released over, pretty much the weekend. So be on the lookout for that. Quick note before we go, I keep forgetting to mention it, but before we go, Two Sons Podcast has recently become an ambassador to a local product. And you might be asking, well, Philip, what is an ambassadorship? And basically, I came across this on TikTok. We are the ambassador of a small time energy drink company known by Dubby Energy. That is Dubby Energy. They are a small business, and they are trying to get up and running. They sell like energy drink packets, like kind of like the stuff that you use like a shaker for. Um, and I've taken a brief look at their website. It looks like they sell some great flavors. They have some great products over there. So we recently became an ambassador. So if you guys are interested and you want to pick up some products for them, it's going to be www.dubbyenergy.com. If you go to checkout and you use our code Two Sons, so that's TUO and then SUNS, all one word, all caps, it will get you 10% off your purchase. And then obviously anything, if you decide to use our code, obviously we get a little, gratuity from it. So obviously that helps us, both out. But just before I kept forgetting to plug it, again, we are now an official ambassador of Dubby Energy. So like I said, go check them out. They got some really good flavors. Seems like a lot of their flavors are fruity, so it should be pretty good. There is like a thing that they are offering their ambassadors where you can get like a shaker and like 4 like sample packets for free. I just have to like go online, like do the whole code thing. So hopefully one episode I'll have, some of the product to actually like share with you guys on screen. And then, give it my own taste and see how it is. But again, if you go to their website, use Two Sons at checkout for your 10% off. And we would greatly appreciate it. But that is all for me. So I'm going to let our brother close us out in this last minute. And then I hope you all have a great day, great evening, great afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Please be safe. May the force be with you. And I will see you in the next one.
All right, I have 40 seconds. Let's make this quick. Like my brother said, we are Two Sons Podcast. That is Sons with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we are on all streaming platforms, all under Two Sons Podcast. I just want to give a shout out. We have added another country to our listener list. Welcome, Sweden. Um, so I'm very excited for that, and I'm just glad this podcast keeps on growing. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys for all the love. Again, like you said, we're trying to get out there and become ambassadors, and hopefully we can continue with this down the line. But in the last 5 seconds, have a great day, have a good night, have a good evening, and just overall have a